Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're going to learn about conditions in Java, how you can check whether a condition is true or false, and based on that, execute a bunch of statements. And the commands that we're going to use for that is if else. Let's switch to our IDE and create a new file called conditions.py. So I'm going to save it as conditions.py. Save. So we're going to start by defining a new variable. Let's say age equals 30. Now we can run some conditions on it. Let's say if age is greater than 20 colon, press enter, print within quotes age is greater than 20. So let's save it. Again, the shortcut to save it is Command S, or you can go to File menu and hit save. And to run it, the shortcut is F7, or you can go to Tools and run it. So I'm going to press F7, and we got the output age is greater than 20. Let's quickly talk about what happened there. We defined a new variable with the value 30, and we're asking Python to check if the value of age or value stored in age is greater than 20, print the value. Now we can change this to 50 and then execute again. So I Command S to save and F7 to run. We got nothing back because now when Python checks if age is greater than 50, it's no longer greater, so we never got anything displayed. So as pay attention to this symbol. This is similar to what you would have seen in math. Greater than, less than are all like exactly what you have seen in math. Now what if we want to display something when this condition is not true? So we can do else colon print age is lesser than 50. I'm going to change this to 52. I should have changed this earlier. So save again and run it. Now we got the message age is less than 50. So the else block runs when the prior conditions are false. So age is not greater than 50, so the else block ran. I'm referring to this as block because the code that you write under the if falls under the if block, and the code that you write under the else would fall under the else block. And the colon is what's signifying a start of a new block. So we're saying when this condition is true, colon, run these set of statements, and I can type more than one statement here. Sample, and I can also write print sample2. So if I run it again, I get age is less than 50 and then sample2, right? Because all the code that you run here or you type here would fall under the else block. So when it's trying to execute anything for else, it's going to run all those statements. And the indentation here, as you can see, there's these many spaces here are mandatory because the spacing is what's telling Python that all these are part of the else block. I can type something here, print, let's say completed executing. I'm going to save it. Nope. I'm going to run it. As you can see, it ran the else block and then it ran the completed executing, right? This is not in the else block. this is going to run no matter what. This statement is similar to the age equals 30. It is going to run no matter whether the condition is true or false. We can check that quickly by changing the age to 80 to make it greater than 50, because now we want the if block to run. So I changed the age to 80 to make this condition true. I'm going to save it, run it again. Now it's displaying age is greater than 50. It's printing sample, which is this part of the if block. It is not going to execute anything in the else block because this condition is true. There is no reason to go to the else block, but it's still displayed completed executing. So this statement runs no matter whether the condition is true or false. That's because the indentation tells Python that anything that is intended to this spot is part of the else block. Once you stop the indentation, then that block ends. In other programs, we use curly brace to do it, but in Python, the rules of the Python language themselves call for this indentation. That's what makes Python programs much more readable, because in order for your program to execute correctly, you have to do the indentation. So if somebody is looking at your program later, they can easily understand what your intention was. Just by looking at this, I can tell these two statements are part of the if block and these two are part of the else block because the indentation is there. That's one of the, in my mind, beauties of Python program. So that's the if, and like I said, there are also other symbols you can use, less than. So let me give you some examples of that. So let's say we want to check, let's define few variables now. A equals 10, B equals 20, and C equals 30. Let's say if A equals 20 colon print A is equal to, actually instead of 20 I'll just type B here. We're going to check if A is equal to B. If print in quotes A is equal to B, else print A is not equal to B. I'm going to save it. Before I run it, you might have noticed that I typed 2 equal sign here, and that's intentional because in Python programs, when you want to assign a value, you will use a single equals. So we're saying assign 10 to A, assign 20 to B, assign 30 to C. So for assignment, you will use a 1 equal sign, but for checking equality, right, you're checking if A is equal to B. So whenever you are checking equality, you have to use 2 equal signs. If you use 1 equal sign here, that will be incorrect. You will get an error. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to run it. And sure enough, as expected, we're getting A is not equal to B. Now if I change A to 20 and run it again as expected, we will get A is equal to B. So that's how you check equality. Now, what if I want to check multiple conditions before I get to the else block? You could do that by using something called elif. Elif is the shorthand form of else if. So we're saying if A is equal to B, do this, else if A is greater than or equal to B, print A is greater than or equal to B. And similarly, just for completeness sake, we'll just finish this with all the conditions, right? So A is less than or equal to B, print A is lesser than or equal to B. Again, I keep forgetting the quotes. I'm just going to put the quotes here. And the final one is else if A not equal to B. Again, many of these conditions won't run, but I just wanted to show you all these operators. Print A is not equal to B. Again, the quotes. I'm going to save it. Before I run it, I'm just going to show you what happens here. So we're checking A equals B, else if A is greater than or equal to B, else if A is less than or equal to B, or else if A, when you say an exclamation equal, it means not equals to B else. Again, if one of them is true, the other conditions won't even run, but I just wanted to show you all the different operators that are available. We know it's equal. Let's just change it to, let's say, 50. A is 50 and B is 20. Let's try to run this. A is greater than or equal to B. So this condition failed. So Python went to the next condition and checked if A is greater than or equal to B. And sure enough, 50 is greater than 20. And we got this displayed. Then Python is going to skip all the other else ifs and the else because one condition became true. So that's all the operators that are available and how you check for conditions in Java. There is a little bit of extension to this. There are other conditional operators that we can look at, but for now, for this video, I just wanted you to understand the basic if, elif, else structure, how you use colon to define the blocks, and how the indentation is very important in Python. So in the follow-up video, we're going to look at some conditional operators to see how we can combine these conditions in a single statement. But for now, please practice all these operators, and more importantly, please practice these if and else blocks with proper indentation, and make sure you're familiar with it. The if-else structure is something that is very common in programs. You would write hardly, like, very few programs where you don't see, sorry about the pop-up, where you don't see if-else condition. So this is very common. It's really important for you to get familiar with this. I hope you understood this. I encourage you to practice this before you move to the next video. Thank you.